Welcome, everybody. My name is Dina Publit. I am the Assistant Director of Alumni and Parent Engagement. I work very closely with the Hale Center for Career Development on alumni and student career programming. Today's virtual event is part of our fall weekend lineup and is intended to provide an overview of the extensive list of resources available to our students within the Hale Center. We have with us today 6 panelists, which represent a mix of students and young alumni spanning their graduating class years of 2018 to 2021. Also, Persephone Hall, Hale Family Senior Director for the Hale Center for Career Development, will facilitate the conversation. We'll start off a sort of formal discussion with the panelists, and then we'll open up the floor to for some Q&A. So feel free to enter your questions into the Q&A feature, and we will do our best to work through them. So without further ado, I am going to ask Persephone Hall to take it away.
Thank you, Dina. And thank you to all of you who took time out of your day to be with us this afternoon. We are excited to be able to share, I was going to say some of the success stories, but I think some of the unique and effective stories that our students have to share and graduates have to share about how they've been successful in their career development search through the work of the Hale Center, and of course just their own ingenuity and intentionality around the work that they're doing. So I'm going to ask our panelists to just introduce themselves. They will tell you obviously their names, they'll tell you their class years, they'll tell you their major, minor, pathway, center, so we'll start with Masha.
Hi, my name's Masha Smirnova. I graduated this past May at Con. I double majored in economics and government, and currently I'm working at a company called Morningstar. A little bit about Morningstar: it is a Chicago-based investment research firm that compiles and analyzes fund, stock, and general market data. They also provide an extensive line of internet software and print-based products for individual investors, financial advisors, and institutional clients. Currently, I'm a product consultant on the product called Direct, and Morningstar Direct is a web-based research platform ideal for developing, selecting, and monitoring investments, including open-end funds and stocks and whatever. And basically kind of my role is I'm kind of on the phone, and I'll have advisors, wealth managers, asset managers call me and help them with reports or, getting data points. So it's really fun talking to people. And my program is a 2-year kind of rotational program. So yeah.
Thank you, Masha. Appreciate that. Anil, will you go next, please? Please, muted.
Sorry. Yes, I'll go now. My name is Anil Timbal. I graduated from Con this past May with a computer science and economics double major and with a statistics minor. And I'm originally from Turkey, and currently I'm working at Archway Health in Boston. It's a health insurance company that provides insurance to hospitals and providers rather than specifically patients. And my role is here is a data scientist. And what I do here is I basically process data, create models, predictive models for insurance pricing. Yes.
Thank you. Cameron Aaron, please.
Sorry, I was muted. My name is Cameron Aaron. I'm a computer science and psychology double major with a minor in cognitive science and a member of the Ammerman Center. I am a senior, but I'm just like a part-time student this year because I'm working at SpaceX doing aerospace medicine. And sort of, I guess what goes into that, I'm working directly with the medical director here and doing some of like the COVID operations and just kind of very general kind of space medicine type stuff. Sorry, I never really know exactly what I'm like supposed to tell people about my job because it's a little bit secretive. But yeah, that's me.
And just to explain, that's why Cameron isn't able to show us his face today, because there are rules at his employer about video in the office. So, but we still appreciate having you here, Cameron. Thank you. Shaniqua, go next, please.
Hey everyone, my name is Shaniqua Shaw. I graduated in 2018, so I'm a lot older than these folks. I've been in the real world now for a couple of years. I majored in international relations and minored in Hispanic studies and history at Con. I continued on with sort of my passion for international studies and immigration. I started off at a major nonprofit in the South, and then I went ahead and transitioned to corporate litigation here in New York City. I'm working at Reed Smith in the Global Commercial Disputes Practice Group as a paralegal. And so what I do is pretty much assist the attorneys with everything and anything that they need. And we serve, corporate and commercial clients and assist in sort of arbitration matters and international disputes.
Thank you, Shaniqua. Victoria.
Sure. So I'm Victoria Usley. I also graduated in past May, so like mostly everyone. I was a double major in psychology and economics, and I did a pathway in entrepreneurship, which is a little bit different than most schools, which was really unique about Cotton. I worked for 2 labs, and with 2 labs, I worked with a smaller company or smaller team called Seek, and we focus on pharmaceutical consulting. So in that, I'm an analyst, just started. So I'm working on one project about like atrial fibrillation, and in that I get to meet people who are like CEOs of companies, which is kind of scary starting out of college, but it's really fun.
That's awesome. And Hope.
Hi everybody, my name is Hope Murphy. I also graduated in 2020. I majored in economics and had a double minor in stats and computer science. And right now I am an associate at a market data firm called FactSet. So I think actually Mosh and I have pretty similar jobs, or at least work for similar companies. So again, providing any market data to financial professionals is what the platform does. And I am in the rotational program currently, but in January, I will get my own book of accounts, so have my own clients, and either partner with them on longer term projects or provide them with trainings. So really enjoy it so far.
Awesome. Well, I always love hearing how Connecticut College students put their education together and then end up using the skills that they've learned through their education out in the world of work. So thank you for sharing that background and information. But let's go back a little bit. Let's think back to when you were coming to Connecticut College, or when you were a younger student. A little bit about the kinds of careers you thought you were going to pursue, or the kind of things that you were interested in. And I'd love to have you describe your involvement with the Hale Center. And some of you parents may even remember we've had some other names. Shaniqua, I think were we still called CELS when you were there? We might have been, but anyway, we've had a couple names, but we are now the Hale Center for Career Development. But to talk a little bit about your involvement with the Hale Center, with your career advisors, with career fellows, and talk about how that has maybe helped you in the decision-making process.
I can go. So going into con, I thought I was going to be pre-med. Well, I'm not pre-med, so like going into freshman fall, I was taking chem, bio, kind of all the basic pre-med courses. Realized it was just not something for me, but I always knew I had a strong background in math. So then freshman spring, I was really like going to liberal arts. You just have so much flexibility. So I was able to take just a bunch of different courses from like government, economics, education, psych. And then I just really realized I like the econ side of things and government and how it's so parallel and connect to each other, kind of giving two different perspectives. And I kind of knew I wanted to pursue something with econ, but I guess I didn't really know what I wanted to pursue within econ. So that's when I went to like Cheryl Banker, who was my career advisor, and I was just basically like sat down with her and I was like, okay, like this is what I want to pursue in a major, but I don't know what careers are available for me. And she basically kind of was just like, you can do anything with these two majors, but like my best advice is to like talk to like econ professors or talk to students that are older, juniors or seniors that are kind of already had internships, past experience. So that's what I did. And I just kind of started like networking with upperclassmen and just hearing about their experience where they've worked in either consulting or at an asset management, banking, finance. So then that was really great because I kind of realized, okay, from their skill set, from their experience, like, is this something that aligns with my interests? So then that was really good because I learned right away. I was like, okay, I don't want to sit behind a computer, but I kind of at the back of my head, I was like, well, maybe I do. So then when I went abroad, I was really lucky enough to do an internship while abroad. I studied in Sydney, Australia, and I think that's a really nice perk that Con had giving me that internship when I was abroad. So I interned at a small like asset management company, and I realized, okay, I definitely don't want to sit behind a computer and Excel for 12 hours a day. Like that's just not for me. So then I came back and I was kind of stressed out because it was like junior spring and like everyone had their internships already. And it was really nice because Con offers funding for students that complete workshops their freshman and sophomore and part of junior year. And I think it was $3,000 that I received. I'm not sure. I think it might have increased, but so I talked to Cheryl again and I was just like, okay, I want like client interaction. Like I want to be talking with people, but I also want that economics perspective. And she was like, well, there's students that have gone into commercial real estate, like you should reach out. And then I just kind of went like on LinkedIn and started kind of like looking up alumni from Con that have been in commercial real estate, and then just started reaching out to them and kind of networking with them crazy. And then Jones Lang's LaSalle, which is a commercial real estate firm, has like a partnership with Con, and I just applied and networked with a bunch of people, and they referred me. And even though like my internship was unpaid with them, I still got the funding from Con, which was really great. And then I kind of realized from that internship and all those internships kind of what I wanted, and then I found Morningstar. Yeah, so that's kind of my experience.
Awesome. I love that you're really describing utilizing your Con network. So whether it was older students, whether it was young alumni who had the same major that you did, or of course, folks who worked at you found interesting.
Yeah,
that is one
absolutely.
of the tools that we very highly recommend that students use in just learning. I mean, because your majors and how you define your academic coursework is really very personalized, but learning how other folks are using those skills in the world of work is a very valuable tool as well. And Masha, thanks for mentioning our funding program. The program is actually called the Career and launched it last fall. And we now offer the opportunity for first-year students to take a 1-credit career preparation course. And so once they take that career preparation course, then they have access to begin through engaging alumni or with other employers with whom we have partnerships, or even engaging on campus. We call them advanced career engagements. Engaging on campus, or even professional skill building. Like say you recognize that you need a very specialized lesson in, I don't know, Excel, something very accelerated, or something very advanced. Could to pursue something like that, we could offer you funding for that. So the structure is now more flexible so that students can be eligible for the funds when they're ready to use those funds. So thank you. Anyone else have an example of maybe a tool or a resource? I love, again, Masha, that you mentioned networking, again, something that we recommend. Anil, you've unmuted yourself, so you've got something.
I can just like talk like off of what you said. Like going like into Con, I knew I wanted to be an econ major, But as I took more classes like in econ and more classes in computer science, I realized I wanted to become more of a computer science major than an econ major. And I guess like one of the things career office helped me realize, like there would be parents coming to Khan, and we could schedule meetings with them, like appointments, like short meetings. So I guess one of the reasons I decided maybe I don't want to go into this field, like into economics straight away, was because I had a conversation with one of the parents, which was super helpful. And on the other hand, I was able to like discover my interest and pursue in computer science and statistics. And just to give an example of like how like you can use, I wasn't able to use my that $3,000 for summer because I already had an internship my junior year, a paid internship, but I was able to repurpose some of that fund for a conference that was happening in San Francisco. So yeah, so like career office was like great, like helping me repurpose that fund and still like help me be able to use that fund in my pursuits. Yeah.
Kind of
Now,
along.
your situation. Oh, sorry, Cameron, go ahead.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Kind of just along the lines of networking. You know, a lot of the opportunities I've been able to find have actually just been through like LinkedIn, and then also keeping in contact with people that I've worked with in the past. That's actually how I got this opportunity. Was just through LinkedIn. I happen to know a recruiter here before the job was even listed. You know, she was like, hey, you know, you seem like someone who'd be interested in this. And, you know, I applied, I interviewed, and then I was hired pretty quickly. But, you know, another really kind of important thing is not so much like just the fact that you've gone to school, but the fact that, you know, all the skills you've learned. And that's really what makes like the liberal arts education very helpful, is because you're not really locked into just one area where it's just like, I've only done, you know, taken psychology classes, or I've only taken comp sci classes. But, you know, being able to sort of sell that combination, and being able to say, hey, you know, I might not have that much like medical experience right now, but I've done like these computer science classes. These are all the ways that, you know, we can apply comp sci to, you know, medicine. And, you know, that's kind of how I ended up getting this job, was because I think I really made them rethink the position and the way that, you know, being able to build systems really would be helpful on their team. So it's, I guess, I don't want people to feel like they're locked into necessarily their major, but it's just the way that you're able to think outside of the box and sort of tailor your like speech in the interview to being able to say, like, you know, this is why your team needs a psychologist, or this is why your team needs a computer science kind of person. If you're talking to the right person and they're open-minded, it really does work.
I think to go off like Cameron's point, I think it's like very important also in like interviews to like very like leverage your like liberal arts education. A lot of times like people will be like, oh, like you're kind of like all over the place because you went to like a liberal arts college, like taking so many different courses. But if you sell yourself like the correct way and like, no, like actually like taking all of these different courses, like aside from my major, like I was able to develop all of these different skills that I probably wouldn't have been able to develop if I was just specifically taking like economics courses. So I think that's like also very important to like highlight in like interviews, or even when you're just like networking with people, because I think that's something very interesting and like a positive thing. So
Absolutely. And a couple of tools you've already mentioned. I think, Cameron, you mentioned LinkedIn. I mean, it's a tool that we use extensively. We have career fellows that help students use LinkedIn. We also have a tool called Vault. It's a library that can provide career resources, industries and about employers. So again, to Masha's point, being able to say, here are the skills that I have, and because I know this about you and your industry, I know that they can fit, or even as Cameron mentioned, I know they can fit within the kind of work that you are trying to do, and this is how I can help you be successful. Victoria, Hope, did you, or Shaniqua, did either of you have anything to add to the talking about your career journey and how your work
Sure.
with the career forward? Victoria?
I can go. So kind of like Masha, well, a little bit different. I knew I wanted to help people going to college, and like that was kind of what I wanted to do, but I didn't want to be a doctor. Sorry. So I knew psychology was kind of like my thing. And then I kind of also was really curious about like the business side of all of it. So that's why I took up econ. And then the pathway, specifically entrepreneurship, it was just like making something your own was really something that struck to me and actually helped me with my interviews. People love it and will eat it up immediately, which is great and helped me get to where I am today. And all of my like internship have been either pharmaceutical or like nonprofit based. Like my freshman year, one of my professors actually helped me connect with Alliance for Living, which is a nonprofit in New London helping people with HIV and AIDS. And then my sophomore and junior year, I interned at Pfizer. So even though my background wasn't in science or like big like chemistry, bio, I still got the job because I like could combine all three things that like was all my interests. And was like, listen, like, yeah, I don't know anything about chemistry, but I know about like I have the desire to want to help people. I want to like figure it out, and they really love it, and that's why I got where I am, happily so. And I'd have to say Mrs. Hall was the best person my senior year. I'd go, I think, every week to her office and be like, hey, help me with my cover letter. Can you please help me with my interviews? Can you help me with my resume? Like, help me with everything. And she would work like day and night, sending me different places to apply. And she like really didn't have to, but went above and beyond. And like, I'm so grateful. I thought I was gonna be so lost my senior year, specifically my concussion the senior fall. So when senior spring came around, I felt so behind, and it was just such a blessing to have her right there in my corner.
Well, you did all the work. You did all the work. Well, and that is one of the things that I appreciate, that since we do assign students to a career advisor early on, students know there's someone that they can reach out to and they can ask questions and they can say. So one thing I did find is because I'd had conversations with Victoria, I knew what she was interested in. So if something came across my inbox, I could send it to her just to make sure she saw it. So we work hand in hand. So we're both successful.
I also really appreciate that, like, you kind of like were like, Victoria, forget what you were coming in like wanting to do, like let me get to know you first, and like let's figure out what you like without kind of thinking about a career. And then that's how we kind of built to where I am now, and that was really awesome. Made me kind of like think a little bit more, being like, hey, here are my interests, here's what I think I want to do, but you're like, try going this way. And I really appreciated that. It's still something I think about today.
Yeah, well, because one of the things we realize is that a job search is just not about what do you do every day, but it's, are you working for an employer whose values fit what's important to you? And I remember us looking at an employer's website together, and there were some aspects about who they showed in that organization that just didn't resonate with you.
Yeah.
I see myself there. And so I listened to the values that you discussed as well. And so that's how we could kind of together make some decisions. And, you know, maybe recognizing that, yeah, work-related values are very important. And so,
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
you work through those. Again, what you've said is important to you, and how does that materialize? So Hope, Shaniqua, I don't want to stop the conversation about your journey and how the career office has helped you. Did you have anything that you wanted to share to that answer? No pressure.
Sure, I'll add. Yeah, that was like 6 years ago for me, so it was a really long time, but I'm going to give another shout out to Cheryl Banker, because she was my pre-law advisor on pre-law. I've been doing internships in law firms, district attorneys' offices, and nonprofits since I was able to work at 16. And so she really sort of mentored me along the path in terms of what I could choose as my major. I went in, I thought I was going to do government. I took government classes, they were interesting, but the one government class that I was really interested in was international politics. And so that professor recommended that I take an econ course, and if I enjoyed econ, then I should major in international relations instead of government. And I actually ended up majoring in international relations, and it's more akin to my interests and my skill set because I also speak Spanish. And so that major, again, I don't think it's kind of structured similarly in other scholastic settings that don't identify as liberal arts. But that major, I think, was a perfect fit for my interests and my eventual career goals. And, you know, the best piece of advice that Cheryl Banker gave me was that, you know, as a pre-law student, you know, there's no specific major that you need to choose. You just need to choose a major that you can excel in and do really well. And also that is writing intensive. And so I went ahead and took her advice, and it's been promising thus far. And I'm happy to say, you know, I'm applying to law school this fall, and, you know, with the help of Cheryl Banker, she really made it possible. So.
Wonderful. Deborah Brunetti is now our pre-law advisor, so she's still available for you if you want help with your pre-law applications or with your law school applications. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Oh, I see you're unmuted.
Yeah, Victoria, sorry, did you want to say something?
I just saw that there was a question. The nonprofit is Alliance for Living. It's right in New London on Big Street. If you want to connect to them, I'm more than welcome to set that up. You can email me. It's V and then Azoy, my last name Azoulay at concall.edu. They were so nice, and so they really care about the community, and they go above and beyond, and it was just such a great experience.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, you know, Shaniqua, it's funny you bring up Cheryl Banker because, like Persephone said, she's crossed to the pre-business side. And I totally I took full advantage of her. I remember Cheryl, you know, early September, I had a super day, like maybe September 10th, super early in the year. And like Cheryl came into her office with me at like 7:30 a.m., like 2 or 3 times. So I just think the dedication of the career advisors is so huge. And I mean, also I lived with a career fellow, so I didn't necessarily have to go to career drop-in hours, but I have to say, Lily Noble was great at editing all my cover letters and resumes, and I'm sure if any of your students, you know, utilize that resource, they'll find that the career fellows are really excellent as well.
Thank you for the shout out, the Career Fellows, Hope. That's absolutely the case. And we've seen them really shift even during this remote time. They're still offering drop-in hours every day from 1 p.m. to 8 p.m. Hours on the web. We can help accommodate a need to look at a cover letter, a resume, or even just help with figuring out how to use some of the resources. So thank you for that shout out. We have 17 career fellows this year. Yeah, awesome. All right. Thank you all for those wonderful stories. Let's talk about, some of you have already mentioned a bit, the overall Connecticut College that's been helpful for you. Again, maybe older students when you were a younger student, maybe even your student leadership positions, alumni, Shaniqua, especially since you've been out of continued to use the Connecticut College Network, maybe faculty, again, other staff. Shaniqua, do you want to start? I see you smiling. Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start. I actually got my current job opportunity through Connecticut College. I was working in the South, and I'm originally from Massachusetts. My entire family is up north, and so the South was a very different culture for me. And I did my job. I did civil rights litigation. It was great. But I was ready to come back home because I was missing my network and my community. And so I checked my resources. I checked the career page. Not sure if I'm calling it the right thing. You guys are changing the names. But I saw that Connecticut College was hosting or co-hosting the New York Recruiting Consortium. And I knew I wanted to be in New York City. I was pretty much exclusively applying to jobs in New York City. And so I submitted my resume through that medium, and I got an interview with Reed Smith, and I interviewed with them actually for a different position, and based off of my qualifications, they hired me on in a position that's actually a little bit more advanced to the position to which I applied. So yeah, Connecticut College has connections. I think it was hosted in part with other NESCAC schools, as well as maybe some other sort of well-respected schools in the Northeast in New York City. So it's really just about, you know, as a Con alum, even 2 years out, I was still able to use these resources and find a really great job opportunity.
That's a great story.
So I'm gonna go off Shaniqua. So basically, that's how I found my job at Morningstar. So going to that like convention, it was last fall, and like we kept getting emails in our inbox, and like I was just like, like whatever, like I'm not gonna apply. And then of course, like the night before, I'm like, wait, I should actually look at these. Like I still don't have a job. So like my like biggest advice is like, if you get those emails, like take full advantage of them and like apply, not the night before at 11:50 when the application's due at 11:59, because I mean, I like you could apply to as many as you wanted to, and like the application process was not difficult at all, and it's not going to hurt you, it's only going to help you. And I got 3 interviews I think there, and like they were all great. And then Morningstar, like just me and the guy who was interviewing just bonded right away. And then at the super day, I think like a few weeks later, they flew me out to Chicago, so it was really cool. But like I don't think I would ever come across that opportunity if I didn't like look at that email and if I delete it. So I think the biggest thing, if like there's any conferences that, you know, there's career fairs or parents coming, or at like anything that could potentially get you an internship or a job, like apply and go, because even if it doesn't work out, you'll still have that network, that connection. So I think that's like the best advice.
Absolutely. I think you mentioned earlier career conversations, meeting with an alum. I put that in the chat that those still happen. The fall consortium is happening again this year. The deadline is coming up. Your students can check Camelink for details about that, but Victoria's cat wants to participate.
I think it's also like,
I'm so
it wasn't
sorry.
just limited for like seniors. I think there were like internships. Like I think there were even things for like sophomore students, like summer. So I think it's just great. Like even if you get the email, look at it and like see like, oh, like you thought this would be for like a graduate student, but like look, like it says sophomore. So
Absolutely. Yeah, we definitely have some employers who are open to looking for interns as well, again, as well as a full-time position. So thank you for that. All right, I want to stay alert with the time. Anyone else have anything special they want to add about using the Connecticut College Network? Again, not just alumni, but other faculty, other staff.
Yeah,
Anyone else have anything they want to share?
I want to talk like a few things about that. Like I feel like almost all my internships that I had a connection with one of the alums that I had. For example, my first internship was at Yale, and I found it through Khan, who works at Google right now, and who eventually worked as a career fellow at Khan. So like I found it through him, and then was able to apply it. And my like other data science internship, I was preparing a newsletter for the CS computer science department. So I would just interview a lot of people. So that gave me a lot of chance to network. And eventually I was able to connect with someone who does data science, and like that connect me to that internship. Or like when I interned for Google, like I flew to San Francisco, and one of my professors had sent an email to the alumni network, and one of the alumni were just like reached out to me saying, hey, we should get to know each other. And we like met up with him, with Phil there. So I feel like I really want to emphasize, like, it may be a small liberal arts college, but I feel like it has a really large network. We can like all students can take advantage of.
And I think it's important to note that like don't be afraid to like reach out to people. Like I think like 95% of the times when like I've sent so many LinkedIn messages on like not even having any connections, but they went to con and I was just like, hi, like this is who I am, like this is what I'm interested, like could we potentially set up a coffee chat? And like again, like 95% were like absolutely, and then like the other times they just were busy or whatever. So I think like just having that confidence. I mean, I didn't really have that confidence really going into con, but like once you just like start like emailing people and like messaging them, like you just build confidence, and I think that's important to like understand.
Great advice. Thank you. Go ahead, Hope.
I just want to piggyback off of what Anil said, actually. When I went into interview for my current job, I actually didn't have any con connections. You know, I kind of thought I had gotten in the door just based on my resume, based on skills, whatever. And I walk in and like the boss who's interviewing me is like a con alum from 2010. So, and who's also my current boss. So I really want to speak to Anil's point that, you know, con alum are out there. We're more than willing to help current students. Like my boss and I are actually doing an info session at con next week because she wants to hire new kids. So yeah, definitely opportunities out there.
Yeah, thank you for mentioning that, Hope, because I was going to mention we do have a director of employer relations who works hard to build relationships with employers. And we do recognize, just as our students have said today, that that alumni network is strong. And so working with Hope and her boss to just make sure we're in touch so that we can keep those avenues open for our students has been a high priority for us. So thank you for sharing those examples. Let's talk a little bit about specific jobs that you've used, or maybe even job search techniques that you've seen others use. I often say to folks, a job search is not just, you know, searching Indeed or searching. There's a lot of pre-work that you do. You do some research on the organization. You know, talk to some folks and figuring out how can I really connect what I've done in my liberal arts education with this employer. And then you put together the cover letter. Again, maybe you reach out to some folks who feels comfortable talking a little bit about some specific job search techniques that you've used, maybe those that you tried and bombed. But what did you successfully that you'd like to share? Who'd like to go first?
I can go. I looked at LinkedIn, and I feel like if you don't have a connection, like if you don't have a network there, it's really hard to get like a response from that job post. Camel Link, which is Con's like LinkedIn, like almost LinkedIn, where it's like, hey, like here's a job posting, like here who we like, this might be a person you can reach out to. That has been really helpful. I had a lot of interviews through that. Alumni, I know like, we kind of talked about that, but they're so willing to help. And like I talked to someone from Deloitte, talked to like a couple of people, and they were just like, here's what I did, here's like where I started, and like here you should talk to this person. It's kind of like a spider web where like talking to other people. Miss Hall, again, I'm going to talk about you and how you like, we would literally look at like specific words on like a job posting or like the company website, and how specific words that I like would never think of. And she'd be like, okay, put that in your cover letter, or like, oh, like use psychology in this way. And like kind of tweaking each cover letter specifically for the job, for the company, I think hits home, and people are like, okay, like it kind of resonates with them a little bit more, which kind of led to how I did my interviews being online. All of my interview process was online. So I had to be in like the company that I now work for, no one does camera. So it's kind of like, how am I going to like make them remember me? Like, how is that going to happen? And I kind of like brought it back where like I looked at their website, I looked at their culture, and I was like, hey, this is what I like. This is why I chose entrepreneurship. It's like that mindset, that exact thing. And then they ate it up and they loved it. And I kind of kept going that. And that it's like something no one has ever told me to do until now. And it makes so much sense.
To kind of go off like Victoria's point, like I think it's super important, like when you're writing that cover letter, going into an interview, like really look on that like company's website, like look at their core qualities, their mission statement, their like culture just to see if like, okay, like, do you believe in like the same core values that this company has? And if you do, like, great. If you don't, whatever. But like, I think that's also like important to like bring that up in interviews, because like your interviewer will be really impressed, like, okay, like you actually went that like step above and like actually researched our website. And like, also, I think like whoever, if you can get a list of like people that are interviewing you, definitely like go on their LinkedIn. I mean, they might get a notification, but I mean, I didn't, I don't really care. But like, it's just like good, like, oh, like they went to like MBA school, like you could talk about that and be like, well, how has that helped you succeed in your career? And then the thing that I kind of did, going into the job search, I created like a huge like Excel spreadsheet, which was kind of a lot, but like I basically like wrote down like different industries, like names of people that I've networked, people that like got back to me, people that I'm having another phone call with. So that just really helped, like having everything organized in like kind of one space. So like going back to that and being okay, like had this phone call, I need another phone call with this person. So that was really helpful for me.
Yeah, being
Also,
able to
look,
document. Oh, go ahead.
sorry, look at the news, see if the company was in the news. I know you told me that, Mrs. Hall, about that, and like I knew that like Seek, the company that I worked for, was just acquired from Two Labs, excuse me. And that was something I talked about for like 10-15 minutes, and how they were nervous about like the change of culture and if it would have impacted culture. And they like were like, hey, like good for you for like knowing that happened. And I know like you said something about how like someone else didn't know about, like, I don't know if it was like money based or something, and it was in the news, and the like interviewee never talked about it, and somehow that resonated with me, and it was just kind of like, okay, make sure you always look at the news and see, like, just Google search the company and see what comes up.
Yeah, because that interview process is where you are trying to get the employer to see you doing that work. And the more passionate you can demonstrate in being interested in that work, the better off. So, Anil?
Like, I also want to mention, like, I feel like having specific projects like related to the like job you are applying to is extremely helpful. For example, for this job, like I didn't have any specific projects, but I had taken a healthcare economics class, topics in healthcare development. So it's extremely related to like what this job is about, like overall. I think having like a hook point is extremely important. And like another example for Google internship, we were doing like some basketball analysis. In my freshman year, I had a stats project where we analyzed, like, try to predict the like win percentages. And that was also like a hook point for that internship, for example. So I feel like it's definitely important to have that specific thing that's targeted towards that position.
Yeah, one of the things we teach in our career preparation class is telling stories. And you all have just described show the skill. I do often suggest that a student apply for a position, even if they're asking for 7 qualifications and you've got like 5.5, still apply. Be able to tell some stories about your work experiences that can demonstrate the possibility that you can make a contribution in that organization. And I think, to Victoria's point, showing that you know other things about the organization. It's not, but it's about the organization itself and how you can then make a contribution to that organization. Great. Anyone have anything else to share?
I have one more. Oh, sorry. Cameron, you can go. I feel like I've also talked a lot.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, Cameron and then Shaniqua.
Okay. So one thing that I found is like projects like are super important, kind of like what Anil mentioned. I feel like honestly, especially in the tech industry, just saying that you have a like computer science major or whatever, it really isn't enough. You know, I've had interviewers ask me specifically like, hey, can you just share with me like some projects and stuff that you've done? So like I would definitely say you know, people should be spending like a lot of time on project work and actually like building something, because I mean it's one thing that I think one thing that like in the summer I was working on my Ammerman project, And one of my mentors was like, yo, you should like totally, email 23andMe about this because I'm using 23andMe data. So I emailed like the CEO of 23andMe. I was like, hey, for my MMM project, I'm doing this, and this is kind of why I'm doing it. And 2 days later, I get a phone call from like a recruiter from 23andMe being like, hey, the CEO of the company passed it down to us, and like we want to interview you for like a potential position out of college. So, having those, being able to like tell a story about like your showcasing your like ability and why you have like done something, and that's a lot better at like showing your skills and like the way your brain works than just interviewing and doing this like arbitrary coding interview and things like that. And also another thing that I found really helpful to me in just like getting jobs I want is starting out like in a position that is a little bit different than specifically what you were maybe going for. Like, so when I was applying for GitHub, I originally was working as a community intern, and sort of through this process, I started working on like code, like different parts of like .com that really wasn't necessarily in my job description to be working on. But then my boss started to notice, and at first I thought I was like in trouble because I was like, I'm touching too much stuff. And she's like, no, keep doing that. And by the end of the internship, she's like, okay, we're gonna like promote you to become like a contractor here as a software engineer. And it was amazing. And I don't think I would have had that opportunity had I not kind of taken a risk on doing something that's a little bit outside of my comfort zone, or maybe something but I actually really enjoyed like both jobs. Like it was really cool.
Yeah.
So,
Cameron, did you see other people around you? Did you know that it was okay to do something kind of outside of the scope of what your position was?
So I would say like definitely the way like my team was like, hey, like there were different things I would do that I didn't necessarily know if I was like allowed to. So I would always preface like, hey, so I'm just an intern, but this is what I would do. And then my boss was like, no, don't just like say that, just do it. Like, and then if something happens, we'll like deal with it later. So I definitely like felt kind of comfortable in that, I felt like my team was just very open. The specific thing that I was contributing to was like very, very like dangerous. So I was really kind of concerned as to that level. But it ended up working out really well.
Sounds like top secret stuff. That's fascinating. Something?
Okay, yeah, is it my turn? I'm sorry that there's a bit of a lag. Oh.
Yes, did you have something you wanted to share?
Yeah, I just wanted to add, so I just, as someone who's been in the working world for a little while, I wanted to add that the interview process is a two-way street. And it's important for folks to take the opportunity to also get to know the employer, right? It's not just their opportunity to get to know you to see if you're a good fit. They also need to be a good fit for you, right? So I wanted to add that as sort of a point of wisdom, and also negotiate, right? Negotiate your salary. A lot of you all, especially if you're at Con and you're doing your internships, and you might be working with community partnerships and getting that practical experience. It may look like on paper, on paper it does look like you have experience, right? And you need to assert that and say, hey, I actually do have 1 year of experience in X field. For me, for example, in law firms, I've been providing, legal assistance for X amount of time. I think I qualify for a salary a little bit higher than the starting base, right? So just using the opportunity for interviewing and understanding that, you know, you have something to offer as well.
Yeah, that's great advice. Thank
I
you
have
for
something to add on kind of to like Cameron's point, like kind of like projects and stuff. Um, a lot of like professors at Con, like you're able to do like an independent like research kind of project with them. In my senior fall, I did one with one of my government professors, and I basically like I wanted to just do something that was like interesting to me. And I was really interested in like the real estate market within like Asia, specifically like China and like Japan, comparing them. So like that was really cool, like kind of just doing something that I was interested in. And like there's like no class on, there's no really courses on like real estate or anything. So my professor was great. And like I just wrote like a 30-page paper throughout the whole semester, and it was 4 credits. And like a lot of professors are like willing to kind of do independent research projects. And then another thing I just want to add on, it's like if you wanted to, like if you're interested in something at Con and they didn't really have that, like you can easily start a club. I started like the real estate club because just coming out of my internship, I was like, wait, like I feel like there's a good amount of students that are interested in this, but there's no courses on it. And it was great, and it's taken over, and like it's been like just networking students and like kind of connecting that to them with real estate individuals. So just kind of taking like every opportunity you can at Con is the best thing to do. And don't wait till your senior year.
Yeah, not only taking opportunities, but making opportunities. I appreciate you mentioning the example about the real estate club. Absolutely. We do have one question in the Q&A. What would you do if you want the top slot at Disney? So I guess I will start with, we'll figure out what it's going to take to be successful in the top slot at Disney and start from there. So I think it obviously depends on what you're currently doing, how your background might fit. But yeah, we got to figure out what are the qualifications to be in the top slot or in any slot. And I think I can generalize the idea even in any kind of
I think
what it's going to kind of talked about is telling those stories. Go ahead, Cameron.
I think if I wanted like the top slot at Disney, kind of what I would do is like identify an area that this company needed. So like say there's like different ways you can try to like approximate like I guess like where they're like getting their revenue from just seeing like their like especially public traded companies, but maybe identifying like a gap in that, and then engineering like a proposal of like a way in which this could possibly be fixed, or this is like a new emerging market that you could be pitching, like you could be creating a product for, and then trying to engineer a way to work that, and going to them and being just letting them know like, hey, this is a potential area where you could be increasing your revenue. Right now, you might not currently be doing this, but these are like maybe 2 ways that I can think of doing it. And it's like really important like to give them like half ideas, like just enough to like hook them in, but not giving them like the whole thing, or else they'll steal your idea. But being like, this is the way I think you should like hire me, and we can get there together. But I definitely think in the first part of like your interview with a company that you want to position needs to be something that really grabs their attention, and telling someone something they've never thought about is a really good way to do that.
Thank you for that, Cameron. And the follow-up question was, although they are all artists, would you begin with museums? And I think Cameron given an answer, like think of a project that you're passionate about that they will need. I appreciate, Cameron, that your answer also spoke to like the business side of Disney, not just the creative side. And so what I'm hearing you suggest is let's think about what you have to offer, but also what are the needs of the organization and how are you prepared to meet those needs. So I think we've got about 5 minutes left, maybe even a little less. I have a question about double majors or minors. Any comments on employers' reactions to that? Like a double major in maybe econ, com sci, and then the comment is that you are all fantastic. Anyone want to respond to that?
I
Go ahead.
speak to that because especially as econ and com sci, which what my double majors were in, and I feel like they definitely go together really well, and employers really value that combination, because if you're looking at economics like overall, and if you're dealing with data, like that data has to be processed, and that's where comp sci comes in. But also just doing comp sci can be boring sometimes because like because you don't want to just be doing coding all day, because you want to be able to communicate what you're doing, and you want to be able to do something more like aligned, like that translates into business. So I think I definitely had like great reactions, like from like having it from employers about like having a double major.
I can attest to that as well. Like I am a double major, or was sadly graduated, double major in psychology and economics, and then the entrepreneurship. And some interviewers were like, how do those combine? Or like, those are two different things. And I was like, actually, they come hand in hand. Like you have to know the business and you have to know the people. And I think, and people were like, oh my God, that makes sense now. And they really enjoyed it. And it kind of like stood to my strengths. So like that went in hand and be like, well, I can communicate really well with whoever it is. Like I work with people who are CEOs, and like I'm 22, I just graduated. What am I doing? But it's thanks to like my liberal arts background, I know what I'm doing. I am comfortable doing it and it's fun. And then I also like know the business. Like I'm slowly learning the pharmaceutical industry a little bit more and more each day. And so I think it really works out. And the people who interviewed me loved it, and they're like, hey, that was really smart. And another thing I wanted to add about interviewing is definitely talk about like your strengths and stuff like that, but also talk about your interests. Like the person who I had like a 5-person interview in one day, and I was like, there's one person who was like, I'm not communicating well with it. I'm totally gonna lose it. And we just started talking about interests, and I was like, I raised a guy dog my senior year of high school, and she was like, I'm actually doing that right now, and she's now my boss. So I think, I don't know what it was, and maybe she liked me because of that, but I was like, okay, I feel like I finally grabbed her, and kind of like that hook saying, I was like, okay, totally did it. So it works out.
Love it. Thank you. Well, we just have a few minutes left. One of the last questions asked was, actually, I was going between two. So one of them is, what advice did you receive that you did not take that you wish you had? So there's one final question. Or final words of advice would you share with parents who want to help their students use their Khan education successfully? So pick a question, or if you want to do something totally different. Let's start with Hope, since we haven't heard from you in a minute. Hope, why don't you start us off?
Sure. I think just some advice for parents is, I mean, honestly, really let your kid take the front seat. Like they know what they are interested in. You know, they're going to create those opportunities for themselves. So, you know, I can't necessarily think of a piece of advice that I didn't take, but I just think that, you know, listening to your kid, knowing that they, you know, everything's going to be okay. And yeah, just trusting and listening to their interests, and yeah.
Great. Shaniqua? Oh, yeah, Shaniqua and then Masha.
Yeah, I would just say, you know, utilize all the resources available to you, including the Career Center, and especially get an internship done, or a couple, you know, not just that junior year internship. I started interning at a small law firm my freshman year, and it was great, and it built my experience up, and because it just gives you a leg up over everyone else who's also fresh out of college and applying to these jobs. what makes you stand out from the crowd is that you have 2 years of experience versus a summer internship. So that would be my advice.
Thank you for that.
One piece of advice I have is just, and this might be like a little weird to say like on a college career call, but like don't focus so much on a bunch of majors, like thinking that's what's going to get me a job. And I know this is kind of coming from the person who has like 2 majors and a minor. Focus on the skills, like focus on making your time as at college as diverse as possible. Because to be honest with you, I mean, a lot of places, like for instance, Google actually doesn't really look at your college education anymore. They focus more on skills. And that's just coming from talking with them. So like focus more on like the skills you're learning in your classes opposed to just getting like super high GPA and everything. And like focus on doing projects, and like if there's a subject you're learning about that you're really interested in, take time to do your own kind of projects around that. Or if you don't have an internship, that's kind of fine. But what I would do is I would create your own internship and identify something in the world that you want to change or that you think needs to be improved, and try to build something or write something or figure some way to use your skills to better I guess to try to like solve that issue, and sort of start maybe like your own company around that. I feel like those kinds of things have really gotten me a lot farther than anything I've actually learned in school. Especially for computer science, it's very like abstract and high level, and you don't really ever actually need that a lot of times unless you go into a very specific industry. So I would just focus a lot on like the skills you're learning more so than actually getting a bunch of majors and getting a super high GPA and things like that.
Thank you, Cameron. I do often say to students who are worried about, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to finish this double major, you can still tell a story about the courses you've been able to take, even if you don't have that officially as a double major, and that's okay. Masha?
Yeah, just to like add on basically what everyone said, I think like the advice that I kind of didn't take would be like I didn't like start networking, I think like early on. Like I think just like freshman year, like I know you might not know what you want to do or like even what fields you're going into, but like still like reach out to people, like go on LinkedIn, like create that LinkedIn your freshman year, and then just like go on. There's like a Connecticut College page on LinkedIn where you can go on to the alumni, and like you can literally like just search in like industries like marketing or economics, and then a bunch of people will pop up, and like just like have like a coffee chat with them. Like you could tell them, oh, I don't really know what I want to do, but I just want to hear about your experience and like your experience at con, like what courses did you take that like helped you get where you are today. And I think that's like the best advice I have. I also saw this question. I think I'm the only one, but I'm moving to Chicago and I'm working at a company called Morningstar. It's an investment research firm. Yeah.
Thank you for answering that. I was going to mention that. Anil, I think you're next.
Sure. I guess like an advice that I didn't take, but also couldn't maybe like execute properly was like start early on things. Like having a goal and like from an early point, just like helps you to identify those steps up the ladder where you need to take those steps, and being aware of those like steps early on just helps you like keep calm and just like work towards your goals rather than just to like rush things like at the last minute. So I guess like that's something I would say like as my like last few words as advice. Yeah.
Great. Did we get everyone? Awesome. All right, Dina, I think we've covered our topics. Is there anything you want to say to close this out?
Hi. Thank you everyone for joining this afternoon. And thank you to both Persephone and all of the panelists for taking some time out of your afternoon to join us today. This was a very fruitful conversation, and I think I can probably echo the sentiments of many attendees as well, that we appreciate all that the Hale Center for Career Development does for our students and alumni as well. So hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon, and thank you again.